We are rolling. Roy Tyson from Roy's People, the creator of these miniature worlds, which I've just been loving a bit of escaping into them, really, especially during the current climate. Thanks very much for sparing the time to talk to me today.
No, pleasure, Sam. Thanks for having us.
And I suppose I've asked you to kind of select, a couple of pieces that, have a bit of meaning to you. But first of all, I think I'd just like to start with, where this all started. It was, 2012, so knocking on for 10 years now almost. How did you get started in this?
Yeah, it was, 2012. And it was kind of, I sort of stumbled into it really because the very first influence for me was taking pictures of a model train track, just using my iPhone. It was iPhone 4 at the time, and all it was I just really liked the perspective that you could get when you was putting the phone down to the eye level of the miniature figures, and then just the images that you could create out of that perspective. And from that, it kind of inspired me to make more. And it was just a little bit of fun, it was just, let's get a couple of these figures, let's pop them all around the house, let's put them in the garden, and they're rubbish pictures, to be quite honest with you. They're dreadful. I mean, boring. You've got nothing about them. A little figure sitting on a leaf or a flower. I mean, there's nothing fun there at all, except for just the sort of intrigue of putting these miniature figures up against a sort of real life object. So that's where it started, and it quickly escalated because at the time I got made redundant. So I'd kind of only been taking pictures of these little figures for about maybe 3 to 4 weeks. But then I got made redundant. But at the time I got made redundant, I got 3 months gardening leave. And I was kind of just getting, a little bit obsessive with these figures. And that's when I started to sort of just play around more and more. So when my gardening leave started, I had 3 months of income, but then I started just getting a little bit more creative with the figures. So whilst I was in the background, sort of looking for another job, I had a couple of interviews. Really, this was kind of exploring this little world was something that was just completely taking my focus. And so it just, it was all I did every day, and all night I was just exploring these little figures. And then I worked out how to rearrange the figures, so you cut them up and repaint them and create what you wanted to create. It kind of, that's how it started. It was quick, within a month I was making a limited edition print and selling it on eBay, just to try and get the ball rolling.
So have you always been kind of artistically inclined? And just out of interest, what was what were you working as when you were made redundant? What was your previous life, if you like?
My previous life, I was a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Okay. Different.
Yeah, so I spent, I was there for 5 years, and to be fair, it was a great job. It was just me on my own every day, going in and out of pharmacies, selling packaging materials to pharmacies, and it was a really good job. I enjoyed it. I'd always had this kind of creative intrigue, as a hobby, if you like, but not so much as in the figures. It was just more I was always interested in street art, Banksy and all those sort of things. As a kid, I was always creative in art, but then as soon as I got out of school, I just went into work. I was a car mechanic, actually. from school. I did apprenticeship with Fords, and then I went into sales. And so it was never, art and making art was never really a thing for me. It was just something that developed at a time when it could, you know.
Interesting though that your kind of experience as a mechanic is kind of saying to me that, working with your hands and manipulation and that kind of thing. So there's something there, isn't there? Which, I guess, are there some kind of transferable skills or elements, would you say, from that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So the bit about the car mechanic thing, which, was particularly sort of transferable, if you like, was so obviously all day I'd be fixing cars and servicing cars. But then on the side, I was interested in cars as well. And I was interested in the old Minis. So that was my first car, one of the old Minis. So my little hobby, creative hobby, if you like, during that time was to work on the Mini, after work. So whether that be, just mechanically, it could be, changing something or repairing something. But at the same time, we also did a lot of creative stuff on the car. And so that's the kind of, that was what, it was like a little restoration project. And that's where the creativity came into. And I did that for about 5 years, the mechanics. And then when I went into sales, I kind of stopped it all. All of that stopped, and I sold the Minis. Didn't do any work on cars because, quite frankly, I was fed up with them. I didn't enjoy going to work there. I didn't mind doing the bit of work on the cars, because you saw a reward, But I didn't enjoy the car mechanics as such during the day. But when it went into sales, I didn't do anything. It then just became I was interested in street art and following artists, but never really making, it was just an interest.
It's interesting though, because I've been made redundant a couple of times myself in the past, and it's I don't know about you, but the first time it happens, it was just such a shocking kind of a bit of a head spinning moment. But I suppose it sounded like you had a little bit of space with having that, couple of months there. So with it just almost a bit of freedom to think for a bit, and then to start exploring the, your artistic side of it.
Yeah, I kind of, I became a bit resentful of the system, if you like, of being made redundant, because I'm fairly driven myself, and this is why I was in the pharmaceutical job. I was pretty good at it, and it was a good 5 years. And if it weren't for the company restructuring and then saying all the sales were going to be internal and you'd have to be based in Leeds, whereas I was in Essex at that time, and it was a bit like, well, no, I don't really want to. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to go and sit in an office all day and sit on the phone calling people. So because it was like forced on me that, well, it was, it's like there's a job here, but you got to move to Leeds or, accept redundancy. And I became very sort of resentful of, that thing of someone having control over, your job, your livelihood and your money, and that kind of, that's why I went in my little time. I think I had 2 interviews, and to be quite honest with you, I went to those interviews not really even wanting the job. They were okay jobs. They were still in the field of pharmaceuticals, but I came away from them just thinking, I don't want to work for these people. Like, that's not what I really want. What I actually always wanted to do was always wanted to work for myself. Always wanted to either have my own business or just whatever way be able to support myself. So it was kind of a bit of a, like, should be looking at jobs I'd just got a mortgage at the time, just got my first mortgage. Should be looking for jobs, but really, like, I'm loving doing these figures, and started selling a few on eBay and seeing a little bit of an income from it. You know, tiny. We're talking minimal. I think in my first month, I probably made about 200 quid or something. But it was, you know, for me, it was like a sort of, it was a sign that was saying, you know, you might be on the right path here. So yeah, I think it's just that eye opener. I've been made redundant, and also really feeling like I was onto something that people were liking, and just going for it, you know.
And is there something about, because you know, miniature figures and kind of a miniature world, if you like, but being in, you know, in you know, putting them first on the, you know, the streets of London, which is like big and busy and everything, but then you can just, like you said earlier, take it down to this kind of macro or micro level, really, and you know, have this different perspective. Was there something about that contrast at all?
Oh, definitely. Well, I was very lucky because I was based 20 minutes from London. So the beauty of being able to just jump on the train, get into central London, and be able to take pictures with these, you know, all the landscapes and landmarks rather in the background. As soon as I started doing that, it just opened your eyes even more, you know, because it goes from putting stuff around the house and in the garden to then, you know, having the whole of London on your doorstep to play with. And I think just as you kind of get more and more into it, think more and more, you know, and explore, you're just going to discover and create. And yeah, it was massively eye-opening, that little period of, I'd spend days just walking around London just with a camera. And I wasn't even, into photography really. When I first started doing them, I was just doing them on my phone and my iPad. And then I started looking into DSLR cameras and did a little one-day course and stuff like that. And I'd just spend days walking around London with a bag full of figures and a load of ideas, just shooting them in all different places, different landmarks in the background. And yeah, it's fascinating. It was brilliant. And I don't do it now. I don't do that kind of thing anymore, of just, you know, aimlessly wandering around. I'd have an idea of what I wanted to create in my head, but it'd be like, you know, if I wanted, like one of the original ideas that I did then was the two figures playing golf. And I knew I wanted Tower Bridge in the background, but I didn't know at the time what I would have to do or where I would have to be able to get that right perspective. So, you know, straight away I'm thinking, oh, I want Tower Bridge in the background, right, go to Tower Bridge. But actually, you have to go about half a mile up the river to get a decent perspective of Tower Bridge when you look through the camera of you look through a macro lens. So it was brilliant. It's such a good little time of just exploring, you know.
Yeah, there's something I love about that as well, which is something I kind of try to do myself, which is almost to be like a tourist in your own city, you know, just to kind of, you know, it's like, you know, these places, but you're sort of taking a fresh set of eyes to them again, aren't you, as you go through there, really.
Yeah, definitely. And also, that I discovered so much of London that I had never seen, because, you know, if you was usually going to London, you know, it's like you kind of just think, you look at the tube map, you figure out where you need to go, and you get on the tubes to go to that place. I started thinking I'll just walk everywhere because, well, I mean, it was good for me anyway, you know, just to carry on walking. But all the different little angles that you would see, you know, you might walk along and, you know, you might catch the Shard just, you know, between buildings.
Right.
You know, and you think, well, cool, you know, perspective that is. And you don't see that if you just get on the train, do you? And just head to where you think you should go. Yeah, it's really good to sort of get to know the back streets of London properly.
Yeah, and was there a, is there a particular point where you thought, do you know what, I think this might be something I can really make a go of, and make a career out of, essentially?
Yeah, there's probably two, and they were basically pretty much at the same time. So my redundancy was in April. I had 3 months. So really I had until July. I had income until July. So what I did was, because I was working, I was doing so much at the time with these figures, just creating and making loads of things. So what I started to do was reach out to every gallery in London, because it just seemed like, London, one of the capitals of the world, one of the art markets of the world. I had no fear at all. And to be honest, I didn't care whether it was a gallery that only represented Asian art, or, only sold tapestries, or, it didn't bother me. I just wanted to reach out and put my stuff in front of them. So I spent probably a couple of days making a database of, I think I ended up with about 350 galleries to approach. So I approached them all, just sent them an email, sent them a couple of images. But out of that, I had 2 that came back to me. And one of them was a little gallery on just off Old Street called Curious Street Gallery. It's not there anymore. Unfortunately, they shut down. When was that? Maybe 2 years ago. She loved it. They were fairly new at the time. And so I went down to meet her, Eleni Duke, her name is. And she just loved what I was doing and the images that I made. And she said, "Yeah, we've got a group show starting in a couple of weeks. I'd like to put a collection of your works in." Brilliant. This is me thinking I've got a central London gallery, that wants to put my stuff in. I'm like, wow. Anyway, so of course, bend over backwards to get I can see the wall now. I think I probably had about 8 works in there, a mixture of a couple of prints and then some originals. And the moment that I thought, wow, this I could be onto something, was when on the first night I was the only one to sell any artwork out of the whole group show.
Wow.
And we sold, I think, all of it except for about 1 or 2 prints. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like, wow. And obviously Eleni was, very happy that we'd just done that. And from then that actually developed into a really good relationship where we, did a whole ton of art fairs together, a couple of solo shows there. And but I'd say that first group show where the artwork was just so well received is when I thought, yeah, let's give this a crack,
How did it feel? One, you've got, someone who clearly believes in your artwork, and then 2, did to make those sales on the first night, was that like, were you like, all right, I'm an artist now, or was it a bit more of a a bit different to that?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a bit different to that, I suppose. I don't know. It's a weird thing about whether you're an artist or not, isn't it? And I am now, of course. It's all I do. But at the time, whilst I was making art, it was always like, I also had my dad in my ear saying, "Oh, this is great. Yeah, this is nice. But, have you looked for a job recently? You tell your friends and they'd be like, have you had any interviews or, oh, that, yeah." It was like support for the art, but really like, yeah, but Roy, you're a pharmaceutical sales rep. You're a car mechanic. It was like, like no one else looked at me as an artist. no one else said, Roy, I think you could actually be an artist, because I don't know, not even artists when they first start really sort of, I don't know, put themselves into that bracket, do they? Maybe it's just the sort of humility of it, but I think it's now, further down the line, it's like, yeah, it's all I do. This is it. Well, apart from organise the art fairs, but the being the artist bit of it is is what I do every day. It's how I make a living. But yeah, I think that took years. That took a good couple of years, I think, for even for me to be able to say at the time, when someone says, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I could say to someone, "Well, I'm an artist," and people are always shocked by that. Anyway, like, "Oh, you're an artist? I didn't even know you could make a living as an artist." But now it's like accepted, and it's just what I've become. Whereas then it was like, yeah, you're not an artist, though, are you? Yeah. It's like, well, I wouldn't mind being. I'm enjoying it, and I'm selling artwork, so I'm making enough stuff. So
Yeah,
I don't know where you draw the line, but
and
I'm glad we're past that now.
yeah, and how much of how much of a role has kind of social media sort of played, and when did you because I mean the images work so well on Instagram, of course, but were you kind of onto the social media side of things from quite early, or did someone say maybe you should be promoting it that way as well?
Yeah, that was one of the first things. One of the first things I did was set up a Facebook page, which was before I had a website, Instagram, before any of that, was because Facebook pages then in 2012 were massive. They were so useful. And I only knew they were useful from how I used Facebook, to explore and to see what other people were doing. And so the first thing I did was set up a Facebook page. And it worked brilliantly for me in the first year, I'd say. Luckily, one of the I had a nice little break in that first. It was August, so when was this? April, May, June. Yeah, so say 4 months after I first really set up the Facebook page. Daily Mail did an online feature for me, which was brilliant because it included the link to my Facebook page. I remember sitting there at the time. I think I picked up about 2,000 followers within a day.
Jeez.
Just through my Facebook page. That's when I started to realise that the images were engaging enough. They were obviously capturing people's imagination and wanting to come and have a look at more. So Facebook pages within, I don't know, a year of setting it up then became absolutely useless. When they decided to start not letting people see, they started changing algorithms.
God.
They basically just wanted you to pay for it, and I get it because they think you're a business and they want you to advertise. Just how they monetize Facebook, isn't it? But it was so that became that was when it was like, right, Instagram is the next one, and that worked really well as well. Set up an Instagram page, was able to transfer a load of followers, get them over to Instagram to follow me. All of a sudden engagement is higher because there was less restrictions on people seeing your stuff, and it's different then. And then ever since then I've kind of, Facebook's become the sort of the Facebook pages, not redundant because it's connected to Instagram. So, I only post on Facebook because it goes through Instagram, and then, Instagram's been very good for me in a sort of, in presence and that sort of stuff. And and it still does. It still is good for me, you know, even for its, you know, restrictions and all that sort of stuff that essentially Instagram just wants you to pay for it, and part of me is okay with that. Part of me doesn't mind that. You know, it'd be nice if we didn't have to pay for it, but it works. It does work. It does reach people. It does get engagement. It does bring people to eventually buy my artwork and support my living. So it's massively key. But then on top of that, what, you know, is even more key is building a database yourself. You know, getting those people that do follow you. The one place that you can, you know, really control your following is to get people to subscribe to any newsletters or mail outs that you've got. That's been the sort of over the whole time, which has been the sort of the best way to kind of keep in touch with people without feeling like, you know, they're being restricted. Just constantly build a database.
Yeah, I think that's something I need to do for the website, to be honest with you. I think I'm just a bit lazy, I think, to be honest. But it sounds like a good plan. I think one thing I like about Instagram as well is that I feel like, by and large, probably, you know, 90% of, you know, the people who are interested, it's generally quite positive and quite supportive in terms of that, like, community feel to it, really, and connecting with, you know, with people as well. Do you sort of find that sort of generally?
Yeah, definitely. It's always very there's a lot more positive connections out of Instagram than there is negative. And no, I think it's brilliant. It's such a good way to communicate and reach people. And yeah, I think it's, you know, it is just the way it's going, isn't it? You know, everyone, and actually, I think even now, because of the whole pandemic thing, and people do spend more time on Instagram and social medias. I think it's been a massive boost for anyone that's creative, or, you know, artists in particular. It's been such a good time for them because people are, you know, discovering more. They're spending more time looking through stuff, and then, you know, you don't know what you'll discover, do you?
True, although my screen time is through the roof at the minute.
Oh no, it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing when you get that. I get an update once a week that says how much screen time per day, and think, oh my days.
And Zoom and seriously, yeah. Like I'm, you know, this is great, and I love being able to, you know, for instance, connect with you right now. It's fantastic. That said, I'm really looking forward to doing things in person, and you know, all that good stuff, you know. So yeah.
Oh, can't wait, eh? Can't wait. Just want to go to the pub.
Oh man, I'm dreaming of you know, just a nice cool beer on draft.
Oh,
Bag of McCoys.
oh no. Cannot wait.
Oh, exactly. We'll get there, though. We'll get there.
We will.
One thing I was going to ask as well. I mean, you've kind of, you know, as you've sort of progressed and the profile's grown as well. Actually, you know, got to work with some pretty big brands as well. Is that when did that kind of, when was the, I suppose, the first collaboration, if you like, on that respect, and how has that kind of impacted how you, I suppose, how you work and grown the profile further as well?
Yeah, the first one that I did was with Time Out magazine in London, and that kind of coincided with, well, at the time it was one of their spring editions. So this was 2013, and I was going to have a solo show about a month after that. So, you know, really worked quite nicely. But that was what I think opened my eyes to the potential of sort of a different kind of client, if you like. reaching out to that world rather than just the originals and prints kind of market. So yeah, when Time Out, I did 13 images for them, for one of their London magazines, and it did really well. Sea Life then got in touch, the one in London, to do something there, and it's just escalated. And they don't come up. They don't, I'm not like inundated with these kind of inquiries. They come up, I'd say I probably get around 3 or 4 a year now, which is great. They're absolutely brilliant. Not only are they good, obviously financially, because, it is a job that you'll get paid to do. A lot of time with making art, you're making art hoping that, people will like it. Whereas these kind of projects, they like your artwork already, and they want, you're essentially getting employed to create them assets to use for their marketing campaigns. So I think it's just been one thing after another. And I guess, if you keep pushing and you keep throwing stuff out there, and you just don't know who's going to see what anymore. You don't know how many marketing agencies are on Instagram, just looking for inspiration. They just want to see something different they've not seen before. And then they'll get in touch and might let you into a project that they're thinking of and that it could work for. So,
and with that side of thing, and I suppose I'm thinking more of the the sort of corporate type stuff. Have you found that you've still had quite a good degree of, I suppose, creative freedom? Have they been like? Has it been quite, generally speaking, quite a good collaborative process?
They're all very different. Every one of them is very different. The way it usually pans out is that the original contact is usually very nice and complimentary and
get you in the door.
Yeah, we don't want to influence you too much, kind of thing. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I know that it's not going to be like that when we get further down the line of actually creating these things. So it's like, what usually happens is, if you could come up with some ideas, based around this theme. All right, yeah, great. My ideas are going to be completely different. My vision is completely different to anyone else's, really. Everyone's vision is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so what usually happens is, they'll come up with it. They have a theme that they've, or a vision for what they want. I will then create stuff around it, or and do drawings and just come up with some designs, and then it will turn into something completely different. Usually, it turns into exactly what they want, and usually it's just because they haven't come out right at the very start and said, this is what we would like you to make. But we didn't kind of want to say that because we didn't really want to influence your mind as such. It's like, well, I don't care, just tell me what your vision is. I can tell you whether it's possible. And then maybe we can sort of back and forth about, what can and can't be done, or what could be done to improve it and that sort of thing. But having said that, everything that I have done, that once we get to the sort of final image, like send it over to them, here's your stuff, I've always been very happy with what comes out, because what I also can accept is that someone else's mind, it's not a bad thing to listen to other people and tell you when something looks crap, or or indeed when something looks good. But I don't mind that. I don't mind someone's if they said, oh no, it's not funny enough. Okay, no worries, let's make something funnier. I don't mind that. And so, yeah, generally the outcome has always been, good. I've always been very happy, and they've been happy. So, yeah, they're good projects, really good projects.
And have there been any of those you mentioned, like at the start when you were first getting into it, and your dad was like, "Yeah, but is it really job?" Have there been any? Has there been one of those that first cut through to like friends and family where they went, "Oh, actually, this is."
That's a good point. No, I don't think so. Not in them, not in those type of things. I guess I did do a thing with Apple where it was like a in Regent Street, the Apple store in Regent Street. I did a 1-day event with them where I had to do a presentation in the store. I don't know if you've been there at all, but they've got like this kind of, they've got like a cinema screen in the main shop. And what they do is they get creatives to go along. They invite an audience, and the creative usually does a talk about their work. It's all displayed, and it stays there all day, so everyone sees it that goes into the shop. I think when I did that, which was probably when was this? 2015, I think, maybe 16, somewhere around there. That's when I think people were, a little bit, wow, Apple. And it was like, yeah, but I won't tell you I'm not getting any money for it, but yeah, Apple. But it definitely caught people's attention.
You didn't feel the need to do the Steve Jobs, the T-shirt tucked into the jeans and all that kind of stuff?
No, I was absolutely bricking it. There was no solid confidence going in there. It was like, oh shit, don't look too nervous.
Yeah,
but brilliant. What an experience, though. Fantastic experience, and they're brilliant to work with.
That sounds like a great experience, albeit a bit of a nerve-wracking one. But then, that's it can help sometimes, can't you, in terms of like personal growth, I suppose. Like, if everything was dead easy, then you're probably not maybe learning anything from it. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pretty much give anything like that a go, because I think it is good for you individually. So I'm all up for personal growth and development and all that sort of stuff. So
now I've asked you to kind of just pick 3 artworks just that you've created that stand out to you, and for people who are watching, I'll do a little cutaway. So we'll just run through them now. And the first one is Room for Two. And just, can you just kind of describe that particular work to start with, and then just explain why it is that's one of your favorites, I guess?
Yeah, Room for Two is a very simple image of 2 figures standing under a bottle top, which is being used as an umbrella. But the reason it's significant in my sort of artistic adventure is just because it was just a random idea that I thought a bottle top could be used as an umbrella. So then I made that little scene and made the figures to be holding the umbrella, and but then so that image of just the couple standing under the umbrella has been the image that essentially has carried me through since I created that in 2013. I created it in Bergen in Norway, because I had a small solo show over there, and they said, "Oh, can you bring some stuff and make some bits on the streets of Bergen?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And oh, by the way, Bergen rains a lot, right? Great, yeah. Well, let's do these umbrellas then, and we'll use the Norwegian beer. I think it's called Hansa. We'll use the bottle top for one of them, and we'll make it in Bergen. So, of course, it was raining. And so it's just, so I created it in Bergen as just right, let's put the figures down there, take the picture, and look back, oh, it come out really well. And then, but the funny thing about the image is that one moment, and it only took me about 5 minutes to put the figures down and then take the picture. I had the guy that runs the gallery with me holding an umbrella. So he's standing next to me holding an umbrella over both of us. And it's just because it's such a quick image to do. Although the idea, I had to put it all together, but to actually physically take that image, and then that one image has been the one that has given me the most exposure on social media. The image that people, it's my hero image, if you like. It is the one that I want people to recognize as mine.
Right.
And it's just been the most, it's just been the best one I've done in terms of, really grabbing attention. So for me, it just shows that, you can create something so quickly and so randomly, if you like, that, actually could make a lasting impact. And it has, 8 years later, I still wouldn't use a different image as my hero image. I'd still use that one because it still seems that it works, people still like it. So
I mean, there's a couple of things I love about it. One, I mean, I suppose one thing is it's timeless, really. That could be, you could look at that in 50 years time and it'll still be like relevant and appropriate. I think what I love about it as well is also because the bottle top umbrella, it's oversized, isn't it? It's in comparison to the figures, but there's something like protective about it in a way. When you look at the image, I feel there's something quite warm about it, and it's just fun with the bottle bottle top, frankly, So no, I can why that's your hero image. It's a great one. It's funny that as well that you can create something in a minute, and that's the one. Other times you can spend ages over something and you go, I don't really.
Oh, don't. Yeah. I mean, you waste so much time on stuff. It's ridiculous. But
now, image number 2, keep them busy. Go on, describe the image and then why it's a favorite.
So keep them busy is a image where there's a mother and 2 small children jumping off of a set of keys into a little pool. And the pool is made using a bottle top again. And the reason this one is kind of significant for me, although, I don't think it's my greatest work by any stretch, or
you've got some.
Oh, right. Oh, here's Will. This is Will, who I share my studio with. But yeah, it's not my best work, but it signifies. I did it when we first went into lockdown, in the first lockdown, and Will. Will's an artist as well, so you'd have to get him involved at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, what it is, it's an image that I did randomly because it was like, we're in lockdown. What am I going to do? We're just going to make art now. The art fairs the fair that we had planned for the start of April had been cancelled. So I knew that there wasn't going to be any, organisational stuff with regards to that. So it was like, all I could do was make art. And that was the first image that I did in lockdown, at the start of lockdown, because I then decided to do a little series that was, just made in my house, house in the garden, because that was seen as the only places we were allowed to go then, wasn't it? But it what it was an image that pushed me into making art properly again, you know, getting me back on the road because of making art all day, every day. I spent so much time organising art fairs before that. And then all of a sudden there's no art fair to organise. And I just, it kind of just took me back to making art again and doing that, which now coming, you know, what we're nearly a year later, it's given me a whole new perspective on actually when the fairs do come back, I'm not going to allow that to take over again like it did. So that's why that one just kind of sparked off a new drive to make art, if you like, rather than just, you know, look at spreadsheets and design stuff all day.
Yeah, it's such a nice, just a playful image, and you know, especially, you know, a lot of families have been, especially at that time, you think if you're, I don't know, stuck in a small house or flat with you know, the kids running around as well, it's a really nice bit of again, a bit of escapism, really, I think. And it's interesting that you say, I suppose it's almost, I'm kind of just seeing parallels between what you said about when you first started exploring art, which was an enforced thing in a way with a redundancy, and then the pandemic is another thing that we haven't had any choice in, but it's kind of pushed you again. You know, I find that quite interesting, like how we kind of like react to change.
Yeah,
you know.
It was like a restart button, and you had to, didn't you? You know, I mean, personally, I was sitting there last March thinking, oh wow, how am I going to earn any money to pay the mortgage? And you know, you start looking at things like universal credit. You just start, you know, you just think, where's my income coming from? And then obviously they brought out the self-employed scheme and that sort of stuff, so that's been supportive. But yeah, no, it just pushed me on. You know, I actually realised that, you know, I could essentially do what I did, as you say, back in 2012 when it all just started. It just, this time I had a head start because I already had it all there.
Now the third image, it's the one behind me, which looks like I'm being attacked by a riot cop there. So this is the riot police in front of the MI5 building as well, which I love. So go on, just why is this again one of your sort of top images?
Yeah, this is one that isn't necessarily like one of the images that, you know, people massively connect with, but it's one of my favourites. It's I've still got this installation. It's one installation that I just, you know, don't ever want to sell. So I've still got the whole same setup. I'm just going to keep it forever. But it's kind of like, it's probably the most, it's probably the image that I'm most connected to, with it being very street, being very kind of like, well, just the police going against the police. And I just like the sort of irony and playfulness of it. It probably speaks more to my way of thinking more than most of the images. But you know, I don't think it's particularly an image that is, you know, is going to connect with everyone. But for me, it's like, yeah, I love it. And,
there is a touch of the Banksy about it as well, I suppose, with the way that it's subversive with the graffiti and, you know, cops kind of attacking themselves basically as well. It's got that kind of feel to it.
Yeah, and that's a huge influence for me. All the Banksy stuff is massive influence, and so yeah, I kind of feel like, you know, sort of I'm definitely building that into this. There's not many images that I've done, you know, that have got that same vibe about it, but yeah, this is definitely the one. And this is why it's kind of more me than most, than most of my other images.
Is there anything you're sort of working on at the moment that you're cooking up that you'd?
Yeah, yeah. I'm working on loads of things at the moment. There's a bigger project that will come around in April, which will be around about 60 installations, very street art based, and yeah. And then I'm also doing a collaboration, another corporate collaboration coming up in April, with a warehousing company, a startup company. So that'll come about in April, but that's more designer image, similar to like what I've done before with Byron Berger or Ted Baker. It's, they've got an image that they want creating. So yeah, nice mixture of creating installations in the studio to then doing the corporate stuff, if you like.
And there's always the caveat that God knows what's around the corner with the lockdown and pandemic and whatever, but Roy's Art Fair, can you say much about that? What's happening in terms of that?
Yeah, we've got an art fair booked for the end of May, at Barge House at the Oxo Tower in London. That's been the space that we've used most and kind of become our art fair home, if you like. But it's it's booked for the end of May, but who knows? We're just completely led by all these restrictions. We're absolutely praying that we can get an event on again. We've got another one booked for the end of September as well, again at the Barge House at Oxo Tower. We just got hope.
Yeah,
we just got hope that it can actually go ahead.
That's it.
It's we need to. It's been horrible, not having these events on and not being able to go to galleries or other art fairs and all that sort of stuff. And it's we just hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, it's a fantastic location, and how important is the aspect now to you of like showcasing other artists and just giving them a bit of a lift and a platform as well?
Yeah, well, the good thing is the artist is what we did it for in the first place. To try and bring a completely artist-led platform to London, which is not something that is there at the moment. Wasn't there, but so that was what we did it with. We did it all to create that platform at the start, and now we're seeing. Firstly, the artists have remained supportive of us, so they're been willing to stick with us until we can have an event, which hopefully will be end of May. But it's just been, I think, all the artists have been so creative over the last year that now they're absolutely itching to finally, get the art, in front of people, which is a completely different experience to anything online. That you just can't match that online. If we've looked at stuff doing, virtual stuff, and you've got to put a lot of resources into, putting something on. But it just doesn't compare, So I think there's going to be a massive increase in people actually wanting to go to these events, when obviously it feels safe to do so and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's going to be a really good time for both artists and people, you know, wanting to get out and discover artists, you know, when we're actually allowed to.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
We just have to wait.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And are there any? It's probably not fair. I normally ask people to kind of like shout out a couple of artists at the end, but I suppose, are there any, you know, who may be featuring in the art fair, for example, who you could point people to, and they can, you know, I'll put a couple of links on the page, and people can go and, you know, check them out.
Oh, it's a good shout. Well, actually, for the art fair, we every month there's 3 of us that run the art fair, but we each pick an artist every month. And actually, this month, February was my chance to pick one. And there's an artist called Stephen Buckler. Now I'll send you his information over, so you'll be able to put a link, you know, wherever you can. But he's one of the exhibitors that we've got in May. He was my choice for this month. Does amazing landscape paintings. And I'm not a massive fan of sort of traditional paintings, and he puts a nice urban twist on a traditional painting that is just a, you know, nice different perspective, and technically brilliant. Really, really lovely paintings. But yeah, he's an artist that I would be happy to give a shout out to, and you know, would encourage people to go and check out.
Great. Well, Roy, I've really enjoyed speaking with you this morning. It's been fun. So thank you very much indeed. Well, afternoon now. We've taken over.
Well, thanks for your time, Sam. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. And here's to hoping we can have you know, a nice pint in the sunshine in the months to come.
Oh, let's hope so. Bring on the pubs.
Yeah, that's it. Cheers.
I can't wait. Right, cheers, Sam. Take care.